You've felt it. That moment when you look at something small and helpless, maybe a child, maybe an animal, maybe even a memory of yourself, and your entire body goes into protection mode. You didn't choose it. You didn't think about it. It just happened. That instinct is ancient. It is millions of years old. It is written so deep in your nervous system that no amount of logic can override it. And yet, there is also archaeological evidence, real, physical, undeniable evidence that ancient humans, our direct ancestors, sometimes did not protect their newborns. Before you react, keep listening. Because what they did, and why they did it, is not what you think. And by the end of this, you will understand something about human survival, human grief, and human love that most people never get to understand. Imagine waking up and not knowing if you will eat today. Not in the modern way, not the skipped breakfast way. In the way where your group has not found food in 4 days, and the cold is getting worse. That was the Paleolithic. The 2.5 million year stretch of human life before farming, before cities, before any safety net. Ancient hunter-gatherer bands were small, 15 to 50 people, moving constantly. Every person needed to carry their own weight, or be carried by others. There was no surplus, no storage, no hospital, no second option if a mother could not feed her child. A nursing mother was already one of the most costly members of the group. She needed more food. She moved more slowly. Add a second infant, twins, or a pregnancy too soon after the first, and the math of survival became brutal. This was not a world that could afford unlimited compassion, and the humans living in it knew that. In their bones, the evidence is real, and it is widespread. Archaeologists have found infant remains at ancient sites across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Some show careful burial, some show something different, a disposal that suggests these infants were not yet fully counted among the living. At a 9,000-year-old settlement in Turkey, infant remains were found buried beneath floors and under doorways, not in the main burial grounds, beneath the threshold, the edge of the home, as if they existed between two worlds. Researchers studying modern forager groups whose lives most closely mirror ancient ones, found that some practiced what they call selective infant loss, the choice not to invest in a newborn the group could not support. The situations were specific: a second birth too soon, when the older child still needed to be carried during migration, a birth during severe famine, an infant showing signs that it would not survive independently, twins, where only one could be supported. This was not random cruelty, it followed a logic, a devastating, grief-soaked logic, but a logic. And here is what matters most. It was almost always the mother who made this decision, not because she felt nothing, but because she was the one who understood the cost most completely. Here is what the records suggest about how these mothers experienced this. They did not feel nothing. Researchers studying forager groups describe the aftermath as periods of deep silence, withdrawal, ritual. Women who went through it were treated by other women in the group with quiet recognition, not judgment, understanding. Because every woman in that band knew it could have been her. The ancient world carried grief for a choice like this, even when there was no word for it, even when it was never spoken aloud. We do not have that word anymore. We buried it under centuries of civilization that told us such choices should never exist. But the grief did not go away. It just went underground. And here is the part that changes everything. The fact that it was agonizing, that these mothers withdrew, that they needed the community around them afterward. That is the evidence of love, the ability to love a child and still release it, because the alternative was the death of everyone else. That is not the absence of maternal instinct. That is what maternal instinct looks like when it is aimed at an entire group. Ancient humans did not process this alone. One of the most consistent things we find across ancient burial practices is that they are communal, shared, witnessed. Even in the hardest moments, the group held the individual. Researchers studying forager societies have documented something important. A child did not receive full recognition within the group, a name, a place, until it had survived past a certain number of days. This was not coldness, it was protection, for the mother and for the community. By holding back the formal naming, the act that made someone truly real within the social world, they created a threshold. A line before which loss was survivable, after which it was devastating. This is why so many ancient infant burials are quiet, simple, unmarked compared to older members. It was a way of saying, "We see you, we mourn you, but we cannot let this break us." And then they walked forward, because they had to, because the living needed them. We live in a world now where every birth is celebrated, every life is counted, every loss is named and mourned. And that is good. That is a real achievement of civilization. But it has left us with something else. A kind of brittleness around anything that does not fit the expected story. Modern people feel crushing guilt over miscarriages they had no control over choosing not to have children, over the ambivalence of early parenthood that nobody warned them about, over the dark moments inside love, the moments where love and survival feel like they are pulling in opposite directions. We have no framework for that conflict. We were told it does not exist, that love is only one thing. But your ancient ancestors knew something you were never taught. Love has always lived alongside impossible choices. The instinct to protect and the instinct to survive have always competed inside human beings. And the guilt, the ambivalence, the grief with no clean name, that is not a malfunction. That is a signal from 300,000 years of human beings who carried the same weight and kept walking. There is a version of this story where ancient humans were brutal, where they were less than us, where we evolved past something dark. But the evidence does not support that story. The evidence supports this one. Ancient parents loved their children before they could keep them. They grieved in ways that left no writing, no monument, only posture, only silence, only the way the women around them grew quiet and close. They carried impossible weight and kept the group alive. And somewhere in the part of you that feels guilt without knowing why, that loves people in complicated, fractured, survival-shaped ways, somewhere in there, you carry them too. You are not broken. You are ancient. And you come from people who understood that love is not only softness. Sometimes love is the hardest thing a human being has ever done.